Hey everyone, Miko here with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. Thank you for joining us for our free Wednesday Zoom calls. Here you're watching on YouTube, but you could also join us on Wednesday. If you're interested in the link to these calls to join live, feel free to send us an email at info@behavioranalystsupervisor.com. You can also just check out our Instagram. We post questions every single day on Instagram. We also post the link to our free Zoom calls. Every Wednesday, we go through a different task list item area, such as A1. We'll talk a little bit about that task list item, and then we'll go through 3 mock exam questions relating to that task list area. We hope that this provides an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the task list and also dive deep into question dissection. We here at Behavior Analyst Supervisor really focus on providing explanations on why an answer is correct and why it's also incorrect. So we appreciate that you joined us. If you have any questions throughout the duration of this video, feel free to shoot us an email, hit that like and subscribe button for more information. Also, you can always leave a comment and we'll be sure to reach back out to you. Thanks again, and I'm Miko with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. You'll also be hearing from Amy and Kevin. Talk to you soon. Cool. Well, welcome everyone. It's Miko here with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. Today, we are talking a little bit about ethics. So that's what we're going to be going through today. I'm so happy y'all joined us. Kevin and Amy will be back on next week. So y'all get me tonight, and then next week we'll be back with Kevin and Amy and myself. But again, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Just a couple of things, a few quick announcements that I wanted to present is we will be giving away a mini mock again at the end of this call. So for those of you that stick around for, our 30, 25 minutes roughly, we'll go ahead and give away a free mini mock. Outside of that, we have some really cool stuff coming up this weekend. Saturday, April 2nd is National Autism Awareness Day. So we'll be doing, it's going to be one of the few times throughout the year that we provide a discount on our materials. So we'll be doing a 10% discount on either one of our 2 full packages. And then also if you purchase anything on that day, we'll be giving away a free comprehensive mini mock. And then also we're still posting questions on Instagram. This week was our ethics takeover, which is kind of neat because today we'll also be talking about ethics. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have questions throughout, you can feel free to throw the questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, as well as you can raise your hand on the little Zoom also. So let's go ahead and start. We are talking about E-7, responsibility in research. So all about ethics. I wanted to take y'all right on over to the ethical code and just jump down to section 6, but it correlates to E-7. The reason for that, and I think this is something that's important to note, is that the introduction, let's actually look at that. The introduction to the ethical code is this portion, introduction through the core principles. This actually is on the task list. So I know a lot of times we skip the introduction to things, right? When you get to the preface of the book, you go ahead and skip to page 1. I'm guilty of it. But the introduction piece, there may be questions on your exam because it is listed in the task list. It's E1, which is ethics introduction. So you'll want to make sure that you read through the introduction piece, the application piece, all of this, because there could and there probably will be questions on your exam from it. So I wanted to note that. And then there's a term that I wanted to go through. Glossary is important too. It helps us to define kind of the area that we're working within and our boundaries. Assent is really the important one for the research section. So I'm going to read it and then I'll explain a little bit about what assent is. So assent is vocal or non-vocal verbal behavior that can be taken to indicate willingness to participate in research or behavioral services by individuals who cannot provide informed consent because of their age or intellectual impairments. Assent may be required by a research review committee or a service organization. In such instances, those entities will provide parameters for assessing assent. And I think that last sentence is kind of critical. So if assent is gained, again, this is informed consent for individuals who cannot give informed consent. It could be for a number of reasons. This listed out intellectual impairments. It could be maybe that it's a non-vocal learner and they're not able to produce a signature, or that doesn't relate to vocal, but a yes or a no. And so Assent may be gained. It could be a thumbs up, it could be a head nod, it could be a simple wave or something like that. But it does need to be, the parameters need to be defined. So if you see assent in a, what am I trying to say here? Oh, an exam question, it will have to give you the parameters. So it will tell you that. And yes, you're so welcome. Someone put that this was not in the old version of the ethical code. This is the most recent one. So always make sure that y'all are checking in on the most recent ethical code. And again, the glossary is an important piece. I think it's something we skip over, but it does help us outline what we're kind of working with. So let's go ahead and just take a look. I'm not going to go through all of the research section. I do recommend that each of you take time, print out the ethical code and read through it, because it is a super important document. And the ethics section tends to be one that folks struggle with a little bit more than other sections. But it goes through everything that has to deal with research, from conducting research to presenting your findings, giving appropriate credit, not plagiarizing. So this is where you'll find that. Again, I'm not going to read through it now, but I will go over the ones that relate to the questions that we go through. Before we get started, does anyone have questions, primarily about research, but even about any of the ethics mock exam questions that we posted on Instagram this week that I can help kind of explain a little bit better? If you do, you can go ahead and throw it in the chat. If not, that's okay. You can always email us as well. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into questions, because I know that's the fun stuff. So I'll read it. Y'all can throw your answer in the chat, and then we will talk a little bit about it. Which is true of ethically reporting research results? A, data must always be publicly available for scientific scrutiny. B, the methods and statistical analysis used in a study must be published beforehand. C, post-publication errors can be addressed by the policy of the publication. Or D, it is customary to exclude some research data when making subsequent presentations to the public. Which one do we think? Y'all can go ahead and throw an answer in the chat, and I will explain in just a minute. Cool. Thank you for those of you who have already thrown an answer in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate the participation. So it looks like we're at an even split between A and C. So let's go ahead and go through each ones. Let's go through the ones that y'all didn't pick first. Foreshadowing here, A or C, one of those is the correct answer. So let's start with D, since no one picked it. It is customary to exclude some research data when making subsequent presentations to the public. No, that is not correct, right? We do not want to be misleading when we present data to the public. If we make data public, we need to submit all of it, right? So if we make any data public, we should submit the research, or we should release the research study in its entirety. So D is not the answer here. Nice job, y'all. B, the methods and statistical analyses used in a study must be published beforehand. No, that also is not correct. When you submit your research proposal, you may include this information in your proposal. But again, it might change between the time you have your proposal to when you actually conduct the research study. However, when you release the results for the study, you should include this. So not beforehand, but when you release the study in its whole, you're going to want to do this. So now we're between A and C. I'm going to give you all a little hint here. So if you remember anything I say today, I want you to remember this. Anytime an exam question has always, never, immediately, so always, never, immediately, those are the three words that really should set off alarm bells in your head. If those words are in an answer, it's probably not the right answer. And the reason I say that is because we base everything on behavior, right? And so if a behavior changes, then we need to change our implementation. So we're not going to always do something unless it's provide reinforcement immediately, right? Then we always do that. But other than that, we're never going to do anything always, never, or immediately. And so data must always be made publicly available for scientific scrutiny. That's not necessarily true. There's going to be research studies that get scrapped. So maybe you don't complete it, or maybe it's a private research study and it's not made publicly available. That is okay, and that is allowed. Not every study needs to be released publicly. So that's important to remember. So the answer to this is C. It is C. Post-publication errors can be addressed by the policy of the publication. So if there's an error and the policy of the publisher says that you are going to retract the study and then you are going to resubmit it in its correct form, that would be okay. Now, these errors shouldn't be intentional, right? These are going to be mistakes, not like you're intentionally trying to sway a research study. So that's important too. This relates to 6.11. I will read this and explain a little bit. So 6.11, accuracy and use of data. These are our kind of correlated codes. Y'all can look at that. Behavior analysts do not fabricate data or falsify results in their research. Again, if it's an error, that happens. Publications and presentations. They plan and carry out their research and describe their procedures and findings to minimize the possibility that their research and results will be misleading or misinterpreted. If they discover errors in their published data, they take steps to correct them by following publisher policy. So that's the sentence that we're really worried about here or concerned with. If they discover errors in their published data, they take steps to correct them and by following publisher policy. Data from research projects are presented to the public and scientific community in their entirety whenever possible. When that is not possible, behavior analysts take caution and explain the exclusion of data, either single, partial, or whole data sets, from presentations or manuscripts submitted for publication by providing a rationale and description of what was excluded. So that is 6.11 of the ethical code. If you have questions, you can throw it in the chat. So I'll say that after each one, but here we go with number 2. Which answer most clearly constitutes plagiarism? Kevin uses an analogy that Amy generated. Kevin posts a rebuttal to an anti-ABA video along with the video itself. Kevin posts a summary of what Pass the Big ABA's weekend workshop went over and charges $2.99 for it. Kevin posts a recording of Study Notes ABA's question breakdown video on YouTube. Awesome, y'all. Well, thanks for throwing stuff in chat. I'll give y'all a couple more seconds to go through these answers and decide. Awesome. So we're at a dead even split between C and D, and this is where you should be. Those are between the two answers yet again. So nice job, everyone, getting it down to 2. That tends to be the hard part, is once we get down to 2, how do we determine which one is actually incorrect and which one is right? So if we look at A, Kevin uses an analogy that Amy generated. That's not plagiarism, right? We're not reposting someone else's material. We're just using an analogy, probably in conversation. So that would be okay. Kevin posted a rebuttal to an anti-ABA video along with the video itself. Again, this one is not it's not plagiarism. We're posting a rebuttal. So this is Kevin's independent work, right? And we're also posting the video. Now, if there are copyright laws, this might be a copyright infringement, but it's not plagiarism, right? Because we're posting the video, giving them credit, and then we're also adding a rebuttal. Copyright and plagiarism are 2 different things. So that's important. And that's actually where C comes into play. So C is Kevin posts a summary of what Pass the Big ABA's weekend workshop went over and charges $2.99 for it. This is probably not probably. This is most certainly a copyright issue. I wouldn't say it's plagiarism because Kevin is summarizing it in his own words, right? So he's summarizing someone else's information, he's posting it and he's charging for it. It's not ethical and he shouldn't do it. It's just not plagiarism. Plagiarism would be D, posting a recording of study notes ABA's question breakdown video on YouTube. He's taking someone else's work in its entirety and he's posting it and not giving them credit. So D would be both plagiarism and probably a copyright infringement. C would simply probably be a copyright infringement. Does that make sense, everyone? Do you see the difference? If you don't, go ahead and throw a question in the chat, or you can always email us. So that is that one. Perfect, y'all. Plagiarism. Behavior analysts do not present portions or elements of another's work or data as their own. Behavior analysts only republish their previously published data or text when accompanied by proper disclosure. So this is kind of two parts. Part one is we're not presenting portions or the entire part of someone else's work as our own. And then the second part is, and I can hear my college professors in the back of my head right now, self-plagiarism is still plagiarism, right? So we cannot publish our own work without citing it. What that means is if you completed a research study previously or something of that nature, you can repost as long as you are citing it. So even if it's your own work, you still need to cite it just like it was someone else's work. Awesome. This is our last question, and then we'll have some time to open it up for questions from y'all. You can ethically conduct research in a functional analysis after completing FA research with your supervisor. When you hold a BCBA or BCBA-D credential after assisting in other research projects, or D, in novel areas as long as you originally had an adequate supervisor. Under which of these scenarios could you conduct research? Awesome. So we have a couple votes for each answer here, actually. So let's go ahead and talk through this. You can ethically conduct research when, I like to go from the bottom up, so let's start with D. In novel areas, as long as you originally had an adequate supervisor. So this one is not correct. Novel means new. So if you ever see novel, you know it's a new behavior or a new situation. We are not ethically allowed to conduct research unless we've had experience in that area. So D is not correct. An adequate supervisor would be great, but if it's a new area, it means you were not supervised in that area, right? So that's why D is not the answer. C, after assisting in other research projects. Let's go ahead and leave C because I kind of like it. So let's leave it and then I'll explain when we get down to 2. B, when you hold a BCBA or BCBA-D credential, no, you still need experience. We always talk about not practicing outside of our competence. I want you to remember we don't research outside of our competence either. So we don't practice outside of our competence and we don't research outside of our competence. Those are two important pieces of information to hop in. Oh, sorry, no. And then A, in a functional analysis after completing FA research with your supervisor. So if I'm between A and C, A is a little bit more specific. So we're conducting functional analysis research and we've completed FA research in the past with a supervisor. So this would likely mean that you're competent. C, after assisting in other research projects, it doesn't mean we've necessarily been competent in it, and it's a little more vague. Vague, is that how you say that word? One of those. So whenever possible, we want to make sure that we're picking the most specific answer. A is the most specific in a functional analysis after completing FA research with your supervisor. So A is correct in this situation. 6.06, conducting or competence in conducting research. Behavior analysts only conduct research independently after they have successfully conducted research under a supervisor in a defined relationship This could be your thesis, your dissertation, or a mentored research project. Behavior analysts and their assistants are permitted to perform only those research activities in which they are appropriately trained and prepared. This is why C was not the answer, right? Even if we've been an assistant or assisted before, if we're not properly trained or prepared, we cannot perform the research. Before engaging in research activities for which a behavior analyst has not received training, they seek the appropriate training and become demonstrably competent, or they collaborate with other professionals who have the required competence. Behavior analysts are responsible for the ethical conduct of all personnel assigned to the research project. So just like you are responsible for your supervisees, if we conduct a research study, you're also responsible for those individuals who are working with you. So that is 6.06. Nice job, y'all. Does anyone have questions about the ethics section, specifically relating to research? While you're typing those, I'm going to take you to our website like we do every week. Just want to show y'all the website. So a couple of things here. If you go to the BCBA exam prep section, you can see our calendar. This is probably the most important piece to us. So we have all of the free Wednesday Zooms, and as you can see, we've listed those out through the foreseeable future. If my internet wanted to load, you could see that. Cool. It picked a great time to freeze. Anyways, on Wednesdays, we have the free Zooms. They're every Wednesday, 5:30. And then on Tuesday and Thursdays, I host a task list course. So we just go through the task list. It's similar to like a cohort. It's included in our All You Need Guaranteed package. Plenty of times for questions. And we are going through mock exam questions as we speak with that. I'll show you a little bit of what some examples of what we go through. So I have another PowerPoint, obviously. So we talk about the task list area, and then we go through examples from that task list area, talk about awesome things like that. So that is included in the All You Need Guaranteed package. Oh, nice. Someone sent me a chat, so I'll respond to that in 1 second. If you have the All You Need Guaranteed package, if you go to your flowchart, the link to that will be towards the bottom of the flow chart. So it should be right there in the flow chart. These are our 2 packages. And then we also have individual items. Like I said, on Saturday and Saturday only, these 2 packages will be 10% off. If you want access to them at the discounted rate, you can just send us an email and we'll hook you up with the packages. So if that's something you're interested in, give me 2 seconds. Let me enter everyone's name and then spin this wheel to give away a free mini mock. As you guys are waiting for me to type, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and spin. Dun, 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 dun. Awesome, Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth, you are our winner for today. Nice job. I believe you have an account. Well, I know you have an account, so I'll add it into your account. Nice work, y'all. Does anyone have questions? If you ever do, please feel free to reach out to us. We answer the direct messages on Instagram, so you can always message us there. If you have a question about something we posted on Insta, feel free to message us. You can always email us. We're happy to jump into a 10-minute call with you, whether or not you've bought something from us. Ultimately, we're here to help you pass the exam. So anything, you have questions about someone else's mock exam, about our mock exams, shoot us an email. We're happy to work through it with you. Yeah, that's what we're here for. So I hope to see y'all next Wednesday. We have a Breakdown the Beast coming up on Saturday, so if you're interested in that. Other than that, thanks everyone for your time, and I will see y'all soon. Miss Elizabeth, I'm gonna throw that in your account right now. You'll see it under tests. So it won't be under courses, but it'll be under tests. All right, y'all, until next time, bye.